Module 2 is probably my favorite of all the modules that we're going to learn as part of this corporate wellness teaching program, because it is nutritional myths. These are the things that people honestly believe, and in fact, if you ask 10 people, 8 of them are actually going to believe these to be true because they were told by somebody in the know, usually a parent, a friend, or a doctor. Those are the 3 most common places people go for nutritional counseling, by the way. Parent, friend, doctor. Last time I checked, most parents, most friends, and most doctors don't know anything about nutrition. And I say that about doctors because, guess what? I was a lawyer for 20 years, now recovering. I took 1 class in tax. They took 1 class in nutrition. I don't know anything about tax. I'm guessing they don't know much about nutrition. Let's leave that for what it is. Well, let's talk about nutritional myths because they're scary. See, when you look at labels on the front of packaging, you believe what you see. Remember this if you remember nothing else. The front of a box is designed by a marketing team. That comes from the marketing department, not the researchers, not the formulators, not the scientists. It's the marketing team. They are designed to get you to buy the product. That's what they do. It's funny, I just got asked to speak in November at SMU School of Law on FDA labeling. I'm sitting on a panel with a lot of very high-powered companies. I mean, Fortune 50 type companies. And I'm like, okay, so we're less than 2 years old and you called me to talk about wanting us to set. And the reason why is they've heard us speak about labeling issues. They've heard us complain about labeling issues. They've heard us talk about what we try to do here at ID Life is actually give all of the information, not just some of the information, so people can make an informed choice. I mean, our advocates spend hours a week, hours, answering questions down to the most infinitesimal question with regard to an ingredient. It's crazy. Go back there and spend an hour with them. You'll see what we're talking about. Do not pay attention to the front. Understand what that's trying to do. Understand that. So let's look at some of the nutritional myths. This is my favorite. Because when people see this, they have a reaction. They think this: fat, lazy, no discipline, hand-to-mouth disease. Well, guess what? Let's look at me. That was me at 307 pounds. Was I fat, lazy, undisciplined? I was a college athlete. 8% body fat. Knew exactly what to do, knew how to do it, knew everything. Guess what? As soon as I stopped playing, I kept eating the same way they told me to eat. And what ended up happening? That. Of course, I stopped going to the gym too because I got tired of people telling me what to do. But what ended up happening was this. I started listening to what other people were saying. I started reading the front of labels. Now, did I stop by fast food? I'll bet you I did. Did I fall into all of the bad habits because life was too busy and this was more convenient? Absolutely I did. But was that my fault? Some of it. Some of it I was listening to other things. See, the thing that I want to teach everyone in this room, if you learn nothing else, don't judge people. You don't know the shoes that they walked in. You don't know what they've gone through in life. If you will change the way that you think about people and say, look, what if I provided you information that might actually be able to make a change in the 6 inches of your ears that will affect the 40 inches around your waist? Because see, too many people in this country focus on the 40 inches around their waist and never change the 6 inches between their ears. See, diets are this. They're temporary solutions to a long-term problem. That's why we don't talk about diets here. A diet will do this. A diet will tell you, you follow this, you will lose weight. Most of them you will. What happens is you get on that diet and for 90 days you're following that thing and everything's great and fine in the world except for this. As you're going down, guess what? Your metabolism is going down with you. It's slowing down. And as soon as you finish your diet and you decide, okay, now I'm going to revert back to doing what I've always done because you didn't change your habits. You temporarily chose to follow a different path. Guess what? As you start to head back up, because you've heard everyone, 99% of people that lose it gain it back. What happens is as you start to go back up this, your metabolism stays down here. Because it takes your metabolism about 120 to 180 days to bounce back to where it was. It does not take you 120 to 180 days to get back to where you were. So what ends up happening is not only do you gain all the weight back, but you add more to it. You've heard the story 1,000 times. I've heard many people say, I've lost the same 50 pounds 3 times. And I said, I wish that was true. Because see, every time you lose, what happens is you're not only losing fat, you're also losing lean muscle. And on your way back up, guess what? You're not adding lean muscle, you're just adding fat. So on your way back down, the next time you're losing fat and lean muscle again, but guess what? It's a lot more fat, a lot less lean muscle. And you're doing that 3 times. It's not the same. See, we're going to go through some of these nutritional myths. We're actually going to teach you to change the way you think so that when you talk to people, you're not being judgmental, you're being helpful. You're giving them the opportunity to actually get information so that they can make a marked change in their life. That's what the purpose of this is. See, our corporate wellness program never judges anybody. Everything we do is from a positive standpoint. When we stand on stage and do implementations with groups, we talk to, hey, somebody's smoking, you know what we do? We show them the benefits of what happens when you stop. We don't talk to them about the choice that they made. You don't know that they grew up in a home with, grandma, grandpa, mom, and dad, and everybody was a smoker, and that's just a way of life, and they thought that that's what they were supposed to do. You don't know that they grew up in North Carolina, and you know what? They lived on a tobacco farm, and it's just part of life. You don't know where they come from, but yet you're judging them because they're outside smoking, and it's 10 degrees outside. But what if it's just somebody who all they need is some help? They've tried to quit 7 times, but they don't have a support system. They don't know what to do. They've listened to chew the gum, wear the patch, do all these various things. But so many people are judging them for what they're doing. You know what? Why is it worth it? But if somebody cared enough to actually hold their hand and say, you know what, I'm going to help you through this, and you are going to revert back. I know you will. You're going to fall off. You're going to go back and smoke. We know that, but you know what? We're going to be here when it happens. We're going to help you out. You can see how that kind of changes the mindset. You want to talk about weight, it's the same thing. You want to talk about sitting at the refrigerator at midnight with the pizza box and no one watching? Come have a conversation with me. That's reality. If you tell somebody, I'm going to be judgmental of you, guess what ends up happening? They don't listen to you anymore. It's kind of like telling somebody their baby's ugly. You just ended the conversation. It's a fight after that. It's the same thing. This is very deep. This is very personal. You don't know where people come from. So let's give them some information. A calorie is a calorie. This is one of my most favorite myths. A calorie is a calorie. You give me a 400 calorie steak and a 400 calorie chocolate bar, I can show you scientifically what's going on in the body. Is it 400 calories? Yes. Can you lose weight if you're eating those 400 calories and the 400 calories and you're restricting your weight consumption? Absolutely, you can lose weight. But metabolically, what it's doing to you inside is not a good thing. Calories are not created equal. Do not preach this. I was actually on a stage in Little Rock, Arkansas with some very well-known nutritionists, and somebody said a calorie is a calorie, and I literally wanted to stand up and choke them. And I actually embarrassed them because I said, really? I said, so a Hershey's bar that's 400 calories and an 8-ounce steak that's 400 calories are the same. And they said, well, they're the same calories. I said, no. I said, you're a professionally certified nutritionist. Are they the same? Now, this is a room full of 800 people, and I put them on the spot, and guess what? Now, all of a sudden, they had to answer the question. So guess what? A calorie is not a calorie. And I told them, don't ever say that again around me. I said, next time it'll get worse because I'll give you a better example. So don't talk about that. 8 glasses of water a day. This is my favorite. This is my absolute favorite. 1945, a nutritionist said, you know what? We should drink about 2.5 liters a day. No scientific basis whatsoever. None. No statement, in fact. Because each person is different. Do you work out vigorously every day? If you do, guess what? You should weigh yourself before you work out. You should weigh yourself after you work out. Guess what? You lost a pound during your workout. No, you didn't. You lost a pound of water. So what you should do is drink 1.5 times the amount of water that you lost in pounds. Because you need to rehydrate yourself. You're going to urinate out half of it. You're going to replenish your hydration. Now your body can actually recover. If you don't hydrate after a workout, you have this wonderful thing we refer to as DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. Or if you saw the video between me and Jen Widerstrom the day after, baby giraffe, yeah. And it wasn't as bad as she said, but it was pretty bad. What happened was, in that workout is I kept doing what she asked me to do, and she was going to keep going until I quit, and I wasn't going to quit, and she wasn't going to stop. So it was just one of these, back and forth things. So I paid for it the next day. But ultimately what happened here was 8 glasses of water a day became vogue. It became doctors saying, hey, you need 8 glasses of water a day. You saw it on the news. You saw it everywhere. You even read it in your health book in high school. It's still in the health books in high school. I know I looked it up. My daughter's a junior in high school. I literally looked at her health and science book the other day, and it literally said 8 glasses of water a day. There's no scientific basis in it. Each one of us is different. If you work outside, guess what? You need more. If you work inside, you may need less. The body doesn't differentiate between hunger and thirst, if you didn't know that. The reason why our ID transformation program recommends the consumption of water in amounts that you're not used to is this. We know that a lot of times you're eating when in really your body's just a little thirsty. But what the body will do is it'll actually pull the hydration out of food. So you're actually consuming more food. That's why water is a big deal. But don't pass that on. This is one of the interesting ones. Diet soda is a better choice than regular soda. So let's get rid of this one real quick. And the picture in the background tells a story. Now, if you understand physics at all, these are two properties that have the same exact weight, put in the same exact can, same exact mass. One floats, the other doesn't. Let me make sure everyone gets that. Doesn't make a lot of sense, except for then you know the density of real sugar. So everyone knows sugar has a little bit of an effect on the body, causes the pancreas to create insulin. The insulin goes in, it's trying to remove all the sugar. Everyone get that. Everyone understand that. Here's what happens with a diet soda. The same exact thing. The body doesn't know the difference. The pancreas creates the insulin. The insulin goes into the body. It's looking for the sugar, but guess what? The sugar's not there. So what it does is insulin does its secondary function. Converts everything in the stomach to fat. So my favorite is, I ordered the cheeseburger and a Diet Coke. That cheeseburger is going directly to your love handles. That's what happens every single time. Every single time. So do not think if you're on a diet soda is the way to go. It doesn't make sense. Water, people. Water, 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 water. And if you don't like the taste of water, we have a wonderful thing called hydrate. Try it. Muscle weighs more than fat. Now this picture in the background is of Galileo. If you don't know Galileo, pretty famous dude, scientist. He sat on the Leaning Tower of Pisa with a pound of rocks and a pound of feathers, dropped them at the same time, and guess what happened? They both landed at the same time. A pound is a pound. Muscle does not weigh more than fat. It's more dense than fat. Generally, 1 fist is a pound of muscle, 2 fists is a pound of fat. Simplistic, but that's about right. So it takes up more space. But here is the real thing that you need to teach people. See, a pound of muscle will burn 7 to 10 calories per day. A pound of fat will only burn 2 to 3 calories a day. That's why you want more lean muscle. It's actually going to boost your metabolism naturally. You know, I always throw my wife under the bus here because I'm always trying to get her to lift more weights as opposed to just doing the little cardio things and Zumba classes and all the other things that she loves to do. And she goes, well, I don't want to get bulky. And normally about that time I show her a picture of Jen Wiederstrom and say, yeah, I can understand why you don't want to do this because she works more than anybody. But ultimately what it boils down to is this. You want that lean muscle because that lean muscle is going to allow you to live longer, stronger, and better. It's going to give you what you need. But here's the thing. If you tell people, hey, you don't need to lose weight, what we need to do is tell people this. We need to add more muscle. Why? Burns more calories. The more muscle you have on your body, the more you get to eat and still lose weight. Tell somebody who's on a starvation diet, hey, I know how you can eat more. It's real simple. All we have to do is put more muscle on you. You can eat more. That changes the conversation a little bit, doesn't it? Calorie restriction is not fun at all. I love the conversations when we talk to people and they say, hey, I want to lose weight. Like, okay, pretty simple thing. 3,500 calories out means a pound lost. That's easy. And they're like, but I don't want to work out. Okay, let's figure out what your basal metabolic rate is. Based upon that, you can eat 900 calories a day and still lose that pound. Good luck. It's not going to happen. But if we can add some lean muscle to your body, guess what? We can improve that number. See how that works? This is my favorite. When people look at protein, they think the steak is the positive and not the broccoli. Broccoli actually has more protein. 100 calories of the steak and 100 calories of the broccoli actually has more protein. See, but we were taught, I'm from Texas. It's meat. That green stuff is just if I get around to it and I still have some space. It's funny, somebody was asking me one time, they said, what's the easiest way to lose weight? And I said, okay, if I can ask you a question first, then you give me the answer, then I'll answer your question. And they said, sure. I said, what is required for your body to digest food? What's the number one requirement for body to digest food? Oxygen. So do this. Next time you take a bite, put the fork down, take 2 deep breaths before you take the next bite. What you'll find is you'll eat about a half of what you normally eat. Now I said, now, what's the easiest way to lose weight? Breathe. It's not a race and it's not a shovel. How many people do you see? I mean, you know, I look at military stuff all the time. You know, I was talking to a few military buddies and they said, yeah, you know, we had 8 minutes to eat. And I was like, that's not treating, you know, it's not creating good habits. If you simply just take your time, you can actually improve your health. But more importantly, if you can understand reality when it comes to nutrition, you can improve your health. GMOs. This is becoming more prevalent. Everyone understands what a genetically modified organism is, right? No, you don't. Nobody does. Scientists don't even know what the long-term effect of this is going to be on us. They have no idea. Let's don't forget, we had trans fat in this country for 12 years before we found out it was a bad thing. 12 years. GMOs, guess what? 1996, they came along. 1996. Did not exist before then. We are one of the only industrialized companies that allows genetically modified organisms to be on the shelf and not be labeled. But 83% of our population wants them to be. Now explain that, how our government can allow things to be on the shelf when 83% of the population wants them to be labeled. I thought this was a government of the people. You can understand now why I'm going to be going on to a stage talking about FDA and labeling on the front of boxes. You see, the other thing that is scary about the stats that are on this screen is this. They did a test on mice and they did a test on rats. Don't necessarily always agree with those types of tests, but they found this. As soon as you got to the 4th generation of genetically modified consumption, they fed them corn, genetically modified corn. The 4th generation, you had a molecular change in the organs and 62% reduction in fertility. Well, guess what? Our little ones that are walking around right now, Logan's kids, the 3-year-olds, that's our 3rd generation. When they have kids, we'll know what the long-term effect is of genetically modified organisms on us. We won't know until then, which means we're roughly, hopefully if Logan's thinking, around about 20 years away. That's when we'll start learning what the long-term effect is, maybe even longer than that. Let's hope it's not the same thing with trans fats, because by then, guess what? It may be too late. You have forests in Canada that do not have a genetically modified organism that has ever been dropped within 200 miles of it. But guess what? They're finding genetically modified organisms at the tip tops of those trees. How is that possible? It's called atmospheric. When you're dropping these things from the sky and you're hoping they'd fall straight to the ground, guess what? Some of them get picked up and they get carried. You literally have contaminants of genetically modified organisms that are everywhere. And I could get into the legal aspects of things, of farms that are genetically and farms that are not. And the farms that aren't, when you have that cross-pollination, they getting sued by the genetically modified companies, and actually the genetically modified companies are winning. We could talk about those types of things all day long. This is an issue that we have. People need to understand. You know, when you go into the grocery store and you see 6 ears of corn for $1, or you see an ear of corn for $2, and I hear people say all the time, well, I can't afford that organic stuff, I've got to get this. And I was like, if you knew the long-term effect of what you just put in your body, you would know that you can't afford not to get that. That's what this is about, understanding. Let's look at statin drugs. 1 in 4 in this room are on a statin drug. 1 in 4 of you. Now, statin drugs are going to help you with your cholesterol issue. Absolutely. The problem is not all LDL is bad. You know, they teach us HDL good, LDL bad, but they forget to tell you is there's 2 forms of LDL. There's the dense LDL, and then there's the fluffy LDL, actually the good stuff. But they also forget to tell you is that HDL is the only known substance that's actually going to go in and act like the roto-rooter and actually help clean up your arteries. But you're stopping the production of both. But the thing that a statin does more than anything else is it stops the body's production of CoQ10. CoQ10 is the nutrient necessary to feed the heart muscle. Did you know 80% of people that are prescribed a statin drug are not told to supplement with CoQ10? 80%. So what ends up happening is you actually are going to create a situation where you are taking a drug to avoid a heart attack, and by not supplementing with CoQ10, you're actually going to cause heart failure. But they forget to tell you that. Now remember, in 1987, these drugs came out. 1987. Well, since then, we had some new stuff that came out in 2012. 25 years later, they said, oh, by the way, these statin drugs, they may cause liver damage. They may cause memory loss and cognitive, abnormalities. They cause type 2 diabetes and, muscle weakness. Now, I'll let that sink in. They cause type 2 diabetes. This is on the warning. 25 years after statins were on the books, they cause diabetes. Do you know the discovery of statin drugs actually won the Nobel Prize for Medicine? Cause it. You know, Health Canada, they don't mess around. They actually give you the real information. Health Canada just came out and they said, you know what? This could actually cause a heart attack in people that are borderline congestive heart failure. That's not beating around the bush. Our warning label doesn't say that, but Health Canada does. See, this is the type of thing. People think, hey, I have high cholesterol, I'll take a pill. Hey, I'm overweight. You know what? One day they'll come out with a pill. I can keep doing what I want to do. Give me a pharmaceutical drug and I will show you a side effect you don't want. Any one of them. Doesn't matter. They all have side effects because they're changing your biochemistry. Now, American Heart Association. You know, we have a partnership with the American Heart Association here locally. You know, we're doing a lot of neat things with them. We just sponsored the Heart Ball. We also have the Fit Friendly Workplace that we're doing the training for North Texas right here in this facility at ID Life. But why did we partner with the American Heart Association? It's real simple. If I had 10 people in this room stand up, I could have 4 of you sit down and say, congratulations, you are never going to have a heart-related issue in your life. The 6 of you standing up, I'm sorry, but you will. Now I can have 3 people sit down and I can say, the good news is your heart-related issue is not going to kill you. The 3 people standing up, I'm sorry, it will. Now I can have 2 people sit down. The good news is you're going to get a second chance. The bad news is you didn't pay attention, it killed you anyway. The 1 person standing up, you're dead. And the first day you found out that you had a heart issue was the day you died. You want to know why we have something going on with the American Heart Association? It's the #1 killer in this country. #1 killer, congestive heart failure, caused by the biggest pandemic we have in this country, which is our obesity rate. That's what's going on. So, let's talk about the health of our ID Life associates. You know, this is from the assessment. This is one of my favorite things to show people because we have the healthiest group in the world in ID Life. The absolute healthiest group in the world because the 70% of you answer, I have 1 to 2 servings of sugar a day. 70% of you, you are extremely abnormal. Because here's the real average. The average American is consuming 30 teaspoons a day. By the way, that's 15 servings for those that are counting. That's the average. That's adding 465 calories a day to our diet. And you're like, no, I don't put sugar in anything. That's almost like saying, no, I don't add salt to anything. Look at the sugar content of the back of the things that you eat. Sugar is added to everything. If it comes in a bag, a box, a jar, or a can, and you're buying it in a grocery store off a shelf, I guarantee you it has added refined sugar in it. In fact, 80% of the things that are sitting on the shelf right now have added refined sugar. How do you think you reduce calories in something and still make it edible? You add sugar to it. And if sugar doesn't work, you add salt to it. And if that doesn't work, you add sugar and salt to it. Eventually, you're going to find a combination that makes it palatable. That's what's going on. And when you understand that and you can educate people on that, then you can learn that we really do have an issue where we need to learn how to understand a label. And oh, by the way, if you need to adjust your assessment, I would suggest you do that quickly. Now, why do I have 3 monkeys on a screen? You know, they did a study up in the Northeast in a university. And this was a strange study. I'm trying to figure out how they get funding for these things, but they did. They took a group of monkeys and they put them on a normal, fat-laden monkey diet. They took another group of monkeys and they put them on a reduced fat monkey diet. And they took another group and put them on a no-fat monkey diet. The group that had the regular fat monkey diet acted like regular monkeys. The group that they did the reduced fat diet were irritable, angry, somewhat aggressive. The no-fat monkey diet, 2 of them actually killed each other. What's the moral to that story? If you know somebody on a no-fat diet, watch out. You know, in this country, what we do is we literally pick extremes, thinking that we're doing something good. We literally choose to deprive our body of essential nutrients. You know, fats, they are the only thing that actually feed the brain. Go on a no-fat diet for 3 days and see if you can cognitively act the same way that you normally do. I guarantee you won't. You're going to be very irritable. Your spouse will want you to go on vacation by yourself, or they will. It's just what happens. We have to learn that these extremes don't work. Manageable weight loss. You know, I hear all the time, you know, we preach 1 pound a week, 4 pounds a month, and they're like, oh, that's not anything. A pound a week, that's nothing. But what if I told you a pound is the size of a softball? 4 pounds is the size of a basketball. How many of us would like to lose a basketball this month? See, when you put it in terms where people can see it and understand it, now all of a sudden manageable weight loss becomes something that they can achieve. A lot of people, you know, if they have 80 pounds to lose, and they're like, oh man, a pound a week, that's 80 weeks. Well, in reality, it's about 120 weeks. Because it's going to take a little bit longer to lose those last 20. I know I lost 107 pounds. It took a long time to lose those last 20. But when you give people something that they can strive for and they can understand that the small achievement actually means something, now all of a sudden they have something to strive for. Biometric screens. You know, this is the one where people need to take control of their health. You get your blood work back and you think, it's normal. What does that mean you do? Same thing I've been doing. I must be fine. Everything's good. Because your doctor said what? Everything looks good. Everything looks normal. What if I told you it doesn't? You know, my wife just had her blood work done. She was literally meeting with her doctor, and she said, hey, everything looks fine. You know, blood work is still normal. You know, let's wait till next year. And of course, my wife, talking to her doctor, says, yeah, but you don't live with who I live with. And she goes, what do you mean? She goes, well, he's got my last 3 years of blood work, and we're going to do a little comparison when we get home to make sure that we don't have any trends. And she goes, what do you mean, trends? This is the doctor talking to my wife. And she goes, well, you know, he's actually going to show me things that are going north or things that are going south that identify precursors to conditions that I would really like to avoid. It's not a conversation I want to have, but I know I'm going to have it because he knows that I'm here. And we did. And what I found was this. The doctor that said normal missed 4 things. 4 things that if we wait until they get abnormal, guess what? Could mean really bad things. See, in this country, it's funny because we buy insurance for our car, for our house, for our boats, for our toys, which is great. If they break, guess what? I got insurance. It'll take care of it. Somebody destroys it? It's okay. You know, I got insurance. It'll take care of it. We have insurance for our health. But what happens if you don't get a chance to do anything with the insurance? What happens if when it breaks, it's broke? Everyone ever think about that? What's the most valuable resource you have? Think about that for a second. The most valuable resource you have right now, is it your house, car, bank account? Do this. Lose your health for 6 months and see if any of those things still belong to you. Because most of the people, they won't. They belong to the bank. Your health is your most valuable resource. Your health. So here's how I want people to understand and look at health scores, biometric scores, their blood work. I want you to think of a bridge. If you're normal, you know what? You're in the road. You still need to understand what it means to be in the road. There's some dangers in the road because there's cars coming the other way. You always have to understand what it means to be in the road. But guess what? When you start getting a little bit on the high side, a little bit on the low side, now you're on the sidewalk. Well, now you're walking, you're no longer in a car, you have cars coming at you from one direction, you got this big wind that's pushing you over towards that edge, and that's a long drop. And if you're abnormal, there may not be a pill that can stop that 500-foot drop down to the bottom, because last time I checked, I haven't found anybody yet that jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and survived. But if you think of your blood work scores that way, let's take control. Let's actually understand what this means. Let's not wait for a professional doctor to tell us, hey, you're okay, you're not okay, this is what this means. You have resources at your control to understand what it is you're doing and why. Did you know most people in this room will spend more time deciding what kind of TV they're buying next than the doctor that's going to perform their next surgery? Because how do we take care of surgeries in this country? I went to the doctor, oh, I need surgery. He recommends somebody, okay, we get it scheduled, he cuts on me. 92% of us don't even research the doctor. What's worse is about 99% of us don't even ask what it's going to cost until the bill comes in the mail. Why? You know, we did some relationship stuff with some people here local. We found out that the difference in cost of an MRI in this town, in Frisco, Texas, was anywhere from $350 to $5,300 for the same MRI read by the same doctor. But it depended upon the facility that you went to get your MRI. Now, if you're paying for this, you have we all have these insurance programs. If you're paying for it, why wouldn't you take a little bit of time to do that research to determine what that is? You know why? Because we don't understand nutrition and health and what it means to take control of what it is we're doing. You know, the reason why we're doing nutritional myth counseling in this segment is this. We're teaching you things that people believe to be true. We're trying to teach people along the way of corporate wellness, hey, look, if you will just do things a little bit differently and take control of your health, you can avoid these major catastrophes and these major issues. That's why we're having an impact in corporate wellness. Because, see, ultimately it boils down to it's very simple. It's a very simple equation. You want to feel good? Fine. Eat better, think positive, exercise. Why complicate it? It's really that simple. Do those three things. Eat better, think positive, exercise. Does exercise mean I've got to go join a gym, push a lot of weight, jump up and down, do burpees and everything else? No. It does not. 52% of us do not get the minimum activity required in this country. Exercise means this. Take the left foot, put it in front of the right foot in front of the left, and repeat for 20 minutes. That's all it means. Walk, move, don't sit. Setting will cause all kinds of issues. In fact, they say setting is probably the number one cause of disease in this country now, because that's what we do. That and the hunchback computer stuff. Buy a ball, sit on it, makes you stand up. All right, so that ends Module 2.